Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to keep talking about the Dark Eldar. Let me just adjust my microphone here, sorry. And we are going to start off today by talking about their journeys into Realspace as the Raiders of Realspace. Though the Dark City is a self-contained realm, hidden from the eyes of those outside the webway, the Drukhari have a constant need to send their warrior castes on campaigns of slaughter. Only by launching massed raids across the galaxy can they feed their insatiable hunger for suffering and secure the slaves and resources that allow Commorragh to thrive. The webway gates that connect Commorragh to Realspace are dotted across planets, moons, and empty patches of space, from one end of the galaxy to the other. Dating back to when the Drukhari's ancestors ruled the stars, these portals allowed the ancient Eldari to travel quickly across their empire. Since that time, they have remained hidden in the folds of reality, and the Drukhari now use them to terrorize and butcher the inhabitants of Realspace, emerging unexpectedly to carry out their slaughter before hastening back to the Dark City with their mutilated captives. Though some of the entrances to the webway have been discovered by the lesser races, most are known only to the Drukhari and their Eldari cousins. As such, raiding parties will often prey on the same world again and again, appearing as if from nowhere before each massacre. Other times, Commorragh warlords use their spy networks to keep watch through a particular portal, silently observing as a decimated planet rebuilds over decades, centuries, or even millennia. When the fruit of their populace is deemed ripe for harvest, another raid will come screaming from the shadows, giving face to the nightmares that have been buried in the collective consciousness of the society for generations. The first sign of a Drukhari raid is usually the appearance of the barb-browed raiders. The silhouettes of these grav craft are feared by many species across the galaxy, and are synonymous with doom. From the decks of the raiders come fusillades of splinter weapon fire that rake the rows of defending infantry, and beams of dark light that rip through armored vehicles and gun emplacements. Smaller craft carrying Drukhari champions and their elite retinues follow in the wake of this destruction, quickly overtaking the larger raiders to stab through the rents in the lines of defense. Such raids are swift and brutal, for the Drukhari avoid attritional warfare unless the potential rewards in suffering are monumentally high. Besides, the defenders are often eradicated before they have had a chance to fortify their position. This is not to say that the Drukhari mindlessly kill all before them, far from it. Many of their foes are merely neutralized and taken as prisoners, though this is in no way a mercy. Those who are aware of the Drukhari's sadistic proclivities know that to die screaming on the battlefield is a far kinder fate than to survive and be taken to the torture chambers of Commorragh, where the sweet release of death can be denied indefinitely. The strike forces of the Drukhari, despite consisting of treacherous and scheming murderers, work like well-tuned machines upon the battlefield. Raids are planned in meticulous detail by the Archons, Succubi, and Haemonculus that lead them, and hidden routes through the webway are opened to allow passage for their forces before the assault. Only the most capable are recruited for each Realspace raid, which is why Drukhari warriors are such determined opponents, and why their bitter rivalries are set aside during battle. Working in concert assures that not only is the greatest amount of punishment inflicted upon the denizens of Realspace, but also that the maximum number of victims can be taken back to Commorragh. Vendettas are revisited only once the captives are divided, for above all the Dark City requires a steady intake of fresh souls. Enormous militant gangs known as cabals regularly launch piratical invasions, and there is much to be gained from being part of such an organization. The thrill of hunting lesser beings, the chance to capture new slaves, but most importantly, the revitalizing feast of unbridled destruction at Hunt's End. Upon a cabal's return to Commorragh, thousands of captives are traded as currency, put to work in the hellish depths of the weapons shops, rendered down in flesh troughs, or tormented unto death, their demise drawn out so that their captors can gain the greatest sustenance from their misery. Though many raiding forces coalesce around a particular archon, succubus, or homunculus, the Drukhari armies that fall upon Realspace are far from uniform in composition. The witch cults who entertain Commorragh society with their nightly displays of ultraviolence are powerful military organizations capable of devastating raids. In addition, many archons will recruit bands of witches from the cult they patronize, for such warrior acrobats make deadly shock troops. Similarly, the vile homunculus covens that lurk in the bowels of Commorragh have standing armies of their own. These shambling hordes of flesh-twisted nightmares are often purchased to bulk out a raid with frightening and resilient warriors, or else accompany their leering creators as bodyguards and assistants both. Typical raiding parties have their ranks swelled further by hirelings or opportunists from the many mercenary subcultures that exist within Commorragh. Whooping gangs of hellions and hurtling reaver jet bikes perform high-speed flyby strikes. Jagged supersonic aircraft and flocks of murderous scourges supply the Cabalites with air cover, while hovering Ravager gunships pick off armored targets with contemptuous ease. Incubi, mandrakes, grotesques, and other freakish specialists lend a raiding party strength and versatility, and it is common for a powerful archon to surround himself with as many of these varied warriors as he can. The process of assembling such multifaceted raiding parties is known in the Dark City as Colthrael at Yinris Clavior, tailoring the toxin to the blade, and is intended to ensure a strike force can swiftly and decisively overcome any opposition, no matter its nature or strengths. Sometimes a powerful witch cult will organize its own raid, marshalling whole fleets of raiders and venoms to bear its bands of gladiatrixes into battle. Such raids are often executed with a specific acquisition in mind, be it deadly new beasts for the arena, or esoteric living ingredients to render down into the potent cocktails of combat drugs that the witch cults favor. A raiding force of witches prefers close assault over all other forms of warfare, and will often be supported by beastmasters, reavers, and other such warriors of the arenas. Some witch cults, most notably the Bane Eternal, are as active in raiding Realspace as the most warlike of the cabals, channeling their fearsome resources into providing their skills in battle against the varied foes of the galaxy at large. Proving their skills in battle. Similarly, the covens of the homunculi will sometimes launch raids of their own volition. Though usually content to squat like bloated spiders amid their webs of shadows and pain, the homunculi need a steady flow of victims as much as any other part of Commorragh society. Many of the more discerning homunculi prefer to orchestrate raids of their own, picking out those they wish captured with a connoisseur's eye, savoring the act of indulging their own peculiar tastes with the relish of a gourmet. A coven at war is a terrifying sight, a rampaging tide of warped bone and bulging veined muscle that glitters with a myriad of blades and needles. Grotesques thunder into enemy ranks alongside buzzing, clicking engines of pain, while the gruesome weapons of the homunculi torment, rupture, and liquefy the foe in spectacular fashion. On occasion, a Drukhari raiding party will join forces with other factions of Eldari, when the desires of each lend them a shared purpose. The masks of the Harlequins, the reborn war hosts of the Ynnari, even the Asuriani of the craft worlds, all find reason to fight alongside their Commorragh cousins against the younger races and ancient enemies that pervade the galaxy. While some of these distant kin may disapprove of the Drukhari's wanton cruelty on the battlefield, they do not deny its effectiveness. Though they are but the flickering embers of a dying empire, together the disparate Eldari peoples can bring whole systems to their knees. The Drukhari do not rely on cumbersome armor, slow-moving tanks, or static fortifications in battle. They consider a swift and merciless offense to be the best form of defense, and wish to be as directly exposed as possible to their victims' pain and despair. The Dark City. Commorragh's long descent into depravity stretches back millennia, to a time when the Eldari civilization was at its zenith. It is a city in which the sadistic rule as tyrants, fueled by the torments of the helpless, and the technologies created by the Drukhari's ancient ancestors are used to form progressively nightmarish subdimensions. Commorragh is the eternal hub in which the Drukhari plot and implement their atrocities. The reaches of space around the city are stitched with seemingly endless trails of scintillating light as vessels pass to and fro between the dark city and the portals that surround it. Some of these gateways into Realspace are small and dim, but the arterial portals above the largest city-states blaze with eternal luminescence. Each can accommodate a pirate fleet with ease. To focus on the city that these portals serve is near impossible. Each distant peak of spires and star scrapers is larger than the last, each border below almost fractal in its complexity. A profusion of thorned dock spars jut from every archipelago and tower, and ornate spacecraft held fast in crackling beams of electromagnetic force occupy every berth. The dark city seethes with a constant flow of corruption as it draws evil to itself only to breathe it back out into the void. Commorragh today is an endless nest of architectural contradictions and spatial anomalies. Each of its estates has been overdeveloped to such an extent that their growth has been forced into the vertical plane, the rival regions sprouting upwards like a tangle of needle plants fighting for a scrap of sunlight. Each of the spires and towers is linked to its fellows by hundreds of curved arches and strands, and crested with complex silver structures that glow with stolen energies. Its towering eyries and palaces reach both upwards and downwards, spiraling into the depths of captive space. With every passing year, the parasitic city seeks to devour ever more of the hidden dimension that acts as its host. Impossible realms. Commorragh is complex on a dimensional scale, a monolithic and ever-changing tangle of impossibilities that could no more be accurately or comprehensively mapped than could the currents for the warp themselves. Yet it is navigable, for the Dark City has many recognizable districts within its shifting bounds, though their number is almost beyond counting. Some are well-known and well-traveled, densely inhabited regions of tangled spires and bone-paved streets carved into fiercely defended territories by warring cabals. Others are death to enter unbidden, the personal realms of powerful archons or cadaverous homunculi, who do not take kindly to unsolicited intrusions. Yet most dangerous are those regions that have fallen into disuse due to either structural or dimensional collapse. These may take the form of monster-haunted wastelands of vitreous wreckage and ossified remains, or lakes of seething poisons and screaming shadows. The latter will often have suffered dimensional breaches due to the partial or total collapse of the webway around them, and may be bombarded by the light of decaying stars, or exist within fields of entropic radiation that wither living creatures to dust in seconds. Commorragh is less a city and more a conglomeration of nightmares brought into existence by the most twisted Drukhari minds. Its fang-like spires and plunging abysses house the most depraved devices of agony imaginable, and from its slave pits and torture chambers come the endless screams of countless wretched slaves. Desolate outskirts. Girdling the titanic central spires of the Dark City, Low Commorragh is a hodgepodge, as I get, that must be the British version of hodgepodge, of shattered ruins and scavenged glories. Once proud fortress complexes and barter ports spread out in all directions, and the black and angular spires of lesser cabals riddle their extremities with opportunistic growth. Many areas are haunted by packs of ghouls and chimerae, and are twisted beyond recognition by the tremendous upheavals of the Fall and the Great Rift. Their pitch-dark catacombs are prowled by far larger and uglier things than the Drukhari, for in Low Commorragh the lost and the feral thrive like carrion in a graveyard. A vast swath of these war-torn ruins form a region known as the Sprawls. Through their bleak streets wander the parched, cadaverous Drukhari who have fallen far from grace. These ghouls gather on the periphery of others' fights and misfortunes, vicariously feeding on pain like freezing men flocking to a flame. Another region, known colloquially as Center Corusper, plays host to the torturous bends and falls of the acid-green river Caedus. Along this river race hellions and reavers, who compete in blisteringly fast aerial duels. The losers are sent spinning to their deaths, their dissolving corpses adding to the potency of the caustic sludge that swills around them. Further coreward can be found the mercenary district Sekmagra, more popularly known as Null City, a nation-sized shantytown permanently riven by internecine conflict on a scale akin to civil war among the lesser races. A thick mist of poisonous smoke hangs over its roofs, and with every passing minute, fresh screams pierce the silence. At night, the scorched streets resound to solid-shot gunfire and the crack spit of splinter rifles as negotiations turn sour and rivals are assassinated. Alien mercenaries can be found here in profusion, vying fiercely for the lucrative murder contracts offered by many of the cabals. The Inner Rings. As violent as they are, the districts of Low Commorragh are but playgrounds in comparison to the inner rings that surround the Dark City's core. Here can be found the oldest noble houses, which have ruled their dimenses with irresistible force for millennia. Their sweeping wings and towering mansions are crested by citadels full of aristocratic true-born warriors, each of whom descended from one of the original orchestrators of the Fall. Among these inner rings, one of the Dark City's ancient states has literally fallen into shadow. In Eldar, shadows thicken and writhe as living things, flowing into one another and crawling up the legs of those that trespass amongst them. Here, amongst the velvet domes, the dreaded mandrakes make their lairs, bathing in the darkness. The outskirts of Eldar give way to the bone middens of the witch cults, where the skeletal remains of every sentient species in existence can be found, positioned in grim tableau and mock battles by the witches who slew them. The underworld. Beneath the core of Commorragh hang vast stalagmite-like structures that jut anarchically from the pocket realities below the city, into the pocket realities below the city. Inside these inverted spires lie the labyrinthine layers of the Haemonculus covens. Each coven occupies a sprawling territory of cells and laboratories in which they practice their heinous crafts. Spiral-edged torture pits, dark light-warded oubliettes, and galleries through which the screaming choirs of the damned endlessly echo. In many places, the superstructure of these nightmare chambers contains remnants of past subjects to whom the homunculi have denied death through their dark science. Helical stairwells are lit by lamps sewn into the eye sockets of incautious visitors, and the bodies of countless alien species flensed in successive degrees line the walls as living relief sculptures. The Haemonculus covens are invaluable to the denizens of Commorragh, dealing in body modification, drug distillation, and, most importantly, resurrection of dead flesh. But even the most powerful Cabalites enter the Haemonculus' realm with caution. The Chasm of Woe, one of the newest regions of the Dark City, is also the most horrific, for the abyss of subdimensions known as the Chasm of Woe seethes with demons. The warp creatures were released when Cain's Gate, the long-held dam against the Immaterium in the heart of Commorragh, burst open. The vile creations of the Chaos Gods tore through the Dark City, feeding on the souls of Drukhari, mercenary and slave alike, but they were eventually corralled into the region surrounding the ruptured Cain's Gate. Unable to seal up what was now a ragged wound in the fabric of the webway, the Drukhari used their reality-bending technologies to create a series of subdimensions between Cain's Gate and Commorragh proper, transporting dilapidated parts of the city and territories of upstart Archons into the path of the unending demon onslaught. In this way, the demonic incursion is kept from ever reaching the heart of the Dark City, but every day dozens more pocket realities must be added to the chasm before the surging forces of chaos overflow and devour Commorragh from within. Demonic incursions. Many of the webways, spars, and branches were shattered entirely during the fall of the Eldari, and have grown ever more dilapidated in the millennia since. The wards once protecting them from the energies of the realm of chaos were left broken beyond repair by the fall. When tensions grow to boiling point within Commorragh, the collective empathic signal of the Drukhari bleeds outward, drawing the denizens of the Immaterium to the Dark City like predators to the scent of an open wound. These demonic incursions are known as disjunctions, and are disasters without compare in the material galaxy. Fiendish warp creatures pour through cracks in the webway to gorge themselves on the souls of whomever they may find. And from the high spires to the slums, all of Commorragh becomes a battleground in a desperate war for survival. A handful of disjunctions have occurred in the Dark City's history, yet none as immense or destructive as that following the breaching of Cain's Gate. And that is where we are going to end this video. There's still more to come. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.